Ohai. Gyeongju City, one of the main tourist centers of South Korea. It is located in the southeast part of the province of Gyeongju on the bank of the Sea of Japan. The nearest towns, large industrial centers Ulsan and Pohang. The landscape is created by east spurs of ridged Kybekson. Gyeongju was the capital of the Travankoreyski state of Silla and one of the most prospering cities of East Asia. The power Silla, arisen at the beginning of one millennium AD, extended to the most part of the Korean peninsula during the period from 7th to the 9th century. Since then in the city there was a set of historical and cultural monuments. After falling of a dynasty Silla, the city gradually lost the value. Modern Gyeongju is a typical South Korean city of the average size. However, a large number of the sites including entering the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List due to Gyeongju, along with Seoul, the center of tourism of South Korea. Gyeongju is located in the southeast part of the province of Gyeongju. Borders on the city of direct submission by Ulsan in the south, the cities of Pohang in the north, Yeongan in the northwest and the county of Gyeongju in the southwest. From the east it is washed by the Sea of Japan. The landscape is mainly hilly, however a part of the western part of the city is occupied by ridged Kybekson spurs. The highest point of Gyeongju, Mount Munbeksan, 13 meters above sea level. In the area Sanmain on border with Gyeongju. To the east from ridged Kybekson spurs of mountains Kusasangs and Tondasan are located. The river Gyeongju system is created by these mountains. Mount Tondasan form the river system of the western part of the city, most of which part Gyeongsangan makes a river basin, originating in the territory of Ulsan and flowing into the sea near the Pohang Bay. The main inflows of Gyeongsangan, the small Pukhan and Namkan rivers. A northern stream and the southern stream respectively. Flowing into the reservoir Gyeongju. In the southwest part of the city inflow of Naktong, the Kimkagan River, and in southern, the Tekvagan River flowing into the sea near Ulsan proceeds. The coastline of Gyeongju is stretched on 33 kilometers between Pohang in the north and Ulsan in the south. The line of the coast is cut up slightly, the main factor forming it are mouths of the rivers. The largest bay of the city is in his southeast part near Ulsan. Here the base of National Sea Police, whose functions include maintenance of an order on the nearby water area, is located. Thanks to arrangement on the seashore, climate of Gyeongju softer and damp than in the central parts of the country. Summer warm and damp, winter cool and rather dry. July and August a rainy season. As well as on the rest of the Korean peninsula, autumn typhoons are frequent. An average annual amount of precipitation -mm, average annual temperature -12.2 C. The historic center of the city is located in the lowland on the bank of Gyeongsangan. In the ancient time, as a result of typhoons, high waters and floods were frequent here. On average, chronicles report about floods each 27.9 years. Now, after commissioning of modern control systems of floods, a flood in Gyeongju, a big rarity. The early history Gyeongju is closely connected with blossoming of the Travankoreyski state of Silla, which capital was the city. For the first time Gyeongju is mentioned in the non-Korean records relating to an era Samkhun at the beginning of our era. These are the Chinese chronicles in which the city appears as Saragak, one of 12 breeding unions making the protostate association known today as Jinkan. Saragak developed in the state of Silla later. The Korean chronicles, which as it is considered, are based on court records of an era Silla, claim that Gyeongju was founded in the 57th year BB by the first monarch Silla, Vanpak Hyokos, by association of 6 small settlements. During an era Silla the city carried the name Sorabol. Karam and Kimson. After association of the Korean peninsula under the power Silla in the middle of the 7th century of Gyeongju became the center of political and cultural life of all Korea. In the city the residence of Van Silla and the court nobility was located. At the time Gyeongju endured the blossoming, knew about him even in Egypt. According to chronicles Samkukovius, in the city at the time there were 119,000 yards, that allows to assume that the population approached 1 million people. The most part of the historical and cultural heritage which reached our days was created at the time, known as an era United Silla. Prosperity of the city lasted in historical scale rather not for long. At the end of the 9th century Silla endured decline that brought in a result to his disintegration on 3 parts. An era of late kingdoms. In 927 Gyeongju was Hyupaki's part, one of 3 late states. After a while, during Van Kyanson's government, Hyupak fell under the pressure of the voivode Tetso, the founder of a dynasty of Koryo. The capital of Korea and the royal court moved from Gyeongju to Kajan, modern Kisong. During a dynasty of Koryo, 935–1392. Gyeongju gradually lost the value, remaining, however, the provincial center. In 940 during Van Tedho's government Gyeongju received the modern name and Yeonam became the administrative center in the region. Under the administration of Gyeongju there was an extensive territory including the most part of east and central regions of Yeonam. In 987 to the city the rank of East Capital, however, was given a little later. In 1012 it was removed. During an era of Koryo in Gyeongju and in Tedekobu, the body managing military affairs of the most part of East and Central Korea also settled down. In the 13th century, after the revolts connected with the movement for restoration Silla, this body disappeared. Then borders of the area operated from Gyeongju considerably were narrowed. During a dynasty Chosun, 1392–1910, Gyeongju continued to lose the value. He stopped being the regional center after the main Yeonamski road which connected Seoul to Tunport was constructed. Now it is the district of Busan, bypassing Gyeongju. In 1601 the capital of the province moved to Daegu, the city located at this road. During the whole era Chosun historical monuments of Gyeongju repeatedly were plundered and collapsed. In the 13th century the Mongolian conquerors destroyed a 9-floor wooden pagoda in Vanyan's temple. During Imtinsky War the Japanese troops burned wooden constructions in the temple of the Bulguksa. Besides, there is evidence of participation in destruction of Buddhist sculptures on the Mount Nansen and of Neo-Confucian radicals. In the 20th century, the status and borders of Gyeongju changed several times. From 1895 to 1955, Gyeongju had the status of the county Hyuna, Han, and the center had the status main, which is usually appropriated to rather sparsely populated administrative units. In 1931, the Gyeongju center received the status, which was given to more urbanized areas. At last, in 1955, Gyeongju received the status city, and the rest of the county of Gyeongju became the county of Volsan, which was combined with the city in 1995. Since then, borders of the city didn't change. In the 20th century, Gyeongju remained relatively the town which didn't have a great influence on political or economic life of the country. However, archaeological excavations, mainly in numerous burials of the nobility of an era, still began with the beginning of the 20th century here. In 1915, the museum, the predecessor of the modern National Museum Gyeongju, was put. Excavation of the period was carried out by mainly Japanese archaeologists and quite often bordered on marauding and robberies. Some reports on excavation were published. In late years of the Japanese Colonial Board of Gyeongju became the transport hub. The railway station was built here. Dongnambu's branch was finished in 1935, and it was laid directly through historical zones of the central Gyeongju. The branch Chongwon was complete in 1942, then Gyeongju was connected by the direct road to Gyeongsan. Modern Seoul. Construction of roads put base for future industrial development of Gyeongju. Approximately at the same time, development of the city as tourist center began. After liberation of Korea in 1945 in the country, the ruin aggravated with strong inflow of the coming back emigrants began. In Gyeongju, the camp for repatriates, the modern area Tongkandong, was organized. Numerous predatory groups worked in mountains around the city. In 1950, the Korean War began. Gyeongju practically didn't suffer during war, remaining under control of the Southern Coalition. Only at the end of 1950 the front line passed across northern districts of the city, the line of the Busan perimeter. In the 1970th year, South Korea endured rough economic recovery. In the region Yeonnam, several large industrial centers including in Gyeongju were created. In 1971, Gyeongbu Highway, which connected Seoul and Busan, and passing through Gyeongju, was finished. In 1973, in the neighboring cities of Pohang and Ulsan, it was opened respectively metallurgical and chemical productions. These events pushed development of the industry in Gyeongju. But in all the 20th century, citizens had no opportunity to choose the city authorities. The mayor was appointed by the central government, both at a dynasty Chosun, and during the colonial period, and also in post-war time. This situation changed in 1995, after reform of local government. Now mayor's position elective. Recently, the population of Gyeongju submitted to the same demographic trends as the population of South Korea in general. Generally, this aging of the population and reduction of the average size of family. For example, at the beginning of the 21st century, the average size of family in Gyeongju was 2.8 people. In view of reduction of this indicator, now in the city there are more households, 100,514, than in 1999, even in spite of the fact that the number of the population decreased. As well as in the majority of the small South Korean cities, the population of Gyeongju is reduced. For example, during the period from 1999 to 2003, the city lost 9.5 thousand people. The main reason for it is that a large number of inhabitants leaves the city in job searches. At the beginning of the 21st century, negative migration in the city made about 4,000 people annually. During this period, the quantity of death exceeded quantity of births on 1,000 people annually. The number of the non-Korean citizens in Gyeongju is small, however constantly grows. In 2003 in the city there lived 1778 officially registered foreigners, that is twice more than in 1999. This growth was provided generally with emigrants from the countries of Southeast Asia, such as Philippines, China, Taiwan, Indonesia and Vietnam. The number of foreigners from Japan, the USA and Canada from 1999 for 2003 fell considerably. Executive power in the city is headed by the mayor and the vice mayor. As well as in other regions of South Korea, the mayor is elected residents, and the vice mayor is appointed by the central power. The acting mayor of Gyeongju, Paek San-sun, it is chosen in 2002. He is the third mayor of Gyeongju elected on an open voting and the 29th since 1955. As well as most of local leaders in this region, it is a member of Conservative Party Sinuri. The legislature is presented by Council of Gyeongju, English Gyeongju City Council, into which 24 dicks enter. Present council was created by merging in 1991 of Old Council of Gyeongju with Council of the County of Volsan. Members of council are elected from districts of the city, usually on one representative from each area, though some areas, such as Anganip, are presented by 2 dicks. As of April 2004 in city government 1434 persons worked. The structure of administration includes 4 departments, 2 additional bodies, a judiciary board and 8 departments. 21 sections are subordinated to departments. Besides, each district of the city has the administration. All them 25. The city is divided into 4 IP, 8 Mayan and 13 tones. All cities and counties of South Korea are divided into similar administrative units. Tones occupy the central part of the city. Earlier there I settled down Gyeongju. Ipa, generally on the outskirts, and exchanges, the most sparsely populated parts of the city. Economy. In spite of the fact that tourism is an important part of city economy, it is possible to speak about her considerable diversification. The most part of inhabitants is engaged in the fields of economy which aren't connected with tourism. More than 27,000 people are engaged in the industry, whereas in the sphere of tourism, about 13.5 thousand people. Besides, the number of workers of the sphere of tourism remained two constants from 1999 to 2003, whereas the industrial sector grew by 6,000 jobs for the same period. The industry of the city is close connected with the industry of the nearby cities, such as Ulsan, Pohang and Daegu. In the sphere of the industry, production of auto parts is most developed. From 938 enterprises of the city, more than a third are involved in this industry. In addition, in Gyeongju also agriculture, especially in the remote districts of the municipal unit, is developed. The city plays one of key roles in the country in production of beef and mushrooms. Fishing is developed in coastal areas, especially in Camp Kozipa in the northeast of the city. In total in the city 436 fishing vessels are registered. The most part of a catches used in the city is on sale in his markets and catering establishments. In the city there is also mining industry. In the territory of the city 57 operating mines and pits in which the kaolin and fluorspar is got are located. On the coast in Yanam, Maine, there is a nuclear power plant which produces about 5% of all electric power in the country. Transport. The city lies on crossing of two minor branch lines. The Changjinsan line goes from Seoul to Gyeongju. On it also there pass trains from a branch of Daegu. From the Tongdaeg station. In Gyeongju, Changjinsan unites to the line of Tongnambu which goes from Pohang to Busan. Also through Gyeongju there passes Gyeongbu Highway going from Seoul to Busan, and 6 other less large highways. Thanks to tourist appeal of the region, to Gyeongju practically from all large cities of the country there are express buses. On 2010 end of the railway line capes connecting Daegu and Busan is planned. Trains will pass through Gyeongju, stopping at the Sinjeontu station in Konchonip to the south from the downtown. Tourism and sites. Gyeongju is the center of tourism of South Korea. The rich historical and cultural heritage of Anirasila is the main reason of it. Besides, the city administration favorably uses the status of Gyeongju, organizing various actions increasing tourist appeal of the region. Conferences, festivals, etc. A considerable part of Heritage Silla is in National Park of Gyeongju. Besides, in the State Museum Gyeongju there is a large number of the objects of old times found in the neighborhood of the city. Archaeologists and historians carry them to Anirasila. Many of these objects are included into the list of national treasures of Korea. Some of the most known sites of Gyeongju are closely connected with Buddhist traditions in Silla. Seokrim Grotto and the Temple of the Bulguksa were the first sites in Korea included in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. 1995. On slopes of Mount Tokamsan ruins of the Temple of Vanyans, which once was the biggest in Korea, are located. On rocks around the city, especially on the Mount Namsan, there is a set of the images but cut in a stone and Karam, the chicken wood, is the place where there is a complex of royal tombs in the Gyeongju center. The pond of Anopchi, a garden with a stream Kosakan, and Komamsond Observatory are nearby located. This set of legends is connected with each of these places. Several fortresses of time Silla remained. It is first of all fortresses Volsan and Myeongville in the central part of the city.
The area around the Lake Pomen and 6 kilometers from the Gyeongju center was turned into the resort area.
Here, on the west bank of the lake, the Gyeongju World Theme Park was broken. In the same place the Sun's Art Gallery and Summer Theatre Posum are located. Each 2-3 years in the Expo Park located to the south from the lake there takes place the International Cultural Exhibition. A large number of resorts and hotels is here too located. The education system in Gyeongju has deeper history than anywhere in South Korea. Kukuk National Academy was based here in the 7th century, at the beginning of an era united Silla. The course was constructed on classics of Confucianism. After falling Silla in the 10th century, Kukuk was closed.
However, thanks to the fact that Gyeongju at the time of a dynasty of Goryeo and at the beginning of an era Chosun was the large provincial center and several public schools which were open.
Later, during a dynasty Chosun, in Gyeongju several private Confucian schools opened. Today the educational Gyeongju system is identical to a national educational system. Training begins at preparatory school, then in the city 65. Then 6 years training at elementary school, 46 on all city. Then 3 years at high school follows, which in Gyeongju 19. And at last, 3 more years in high school. Training in high school is optional, however most of children studies in it. In total in the city 21 high schools, from them in the 11th training are made according to special technical programs. At each educational level of school are divided into private and open, and both types of schools submit to branch of Department of Formation of the province of Gyeongsangbuk-do 17. Besides, in Gyeongju the school for mentally retarded children at which training is made at the levels from preparatory to high school is located. In the city 4 institutions of higher education are located. One of them, Sorabol, is technical educational institution. Except in Gyeongju there are 3 universities, 2 of which, Dongguk and Aekuk, are Buddhist educational institutions, and the third, the Gyeongju University. The former Korean University of Tourism makes training generally in the specialties connected with tourist activity. Culture.
Gyeongju, the homeland of many famous people which left a noticeable mark in the history and the culture of the country.
During an era Silla lived in the city all top of the state, not only political, but also cultural and scientific, for example, the scientist Chief Ki Von and the voivode Kim Bae crossing. Further, the city remained one of the cultural centers of the country. Descendants Chief Ki Von played an important role in cultural life of Goryeo. During the period Chosun Gyeongju, as well as the most part of the region Gyeongsan, became a haven of conservative cliques. The famous members of this organization from Gyeongju, the scientist Lee On-jak, the 15th century. And in later time, the writer Park became Wetwol, who made a big contribution to business of promoting of culture of the region, and also Chava of June, the businessman who set up foundation of the Yeonam University. Gyeongju, the homeland of several oldest and most influential Korean clans originating from the aristocracy of the state of Silla. For example, the clan Kima from Gyeongju originates from the court nobility. Clans of the Pakais and Jews originate from the aristocracy early Silla. These three clans played an important role in political and cultural life of the country and after falling Silla. Clans Tuchava and Lee also originate from elite of medieval society. Not all clans of Gyeongju appeared during an era Silla. Some of them, for example, the clan Pin, appeared during a dynasty Chosun. Now the city is the important center of the Korean Buddhism. In east part of the city, one of the largest and oldest temples of the country, the Gyeongju, is located. Near him, an ancient sanctuary Sakuram. Traditional places for prayers are located on slopes of mountains in all territory of the city. On the mountains Namsan in the downtown, Tansiksan and Obonsan in the western part, and in the foothills of Hyunsana on border with Pohang. Namsan, sometimes called the Sacred Mountain, in view of the fact that on her a large number of Buddhist sanctuaries, temples and statues is located. The dialect of locals, and also inhabitants of a northern part of Ulsan, differs from traditional Korean. This dialect is a part of more general Kinzansky dialect, keeping at the same time some distinctive features. Some linguists trace communications of a local dialect with language of inhabitants ancient Silla. For example, contrast between a local form of a word. It is said, Sonic, and Standard Korean. Heavy rain is said Sanaga in translation. Silla reflects an ancient phoneme of language. The cuisine of Gyeongju generally repeats traditional Korean cuisine. However, there are small differences. The most popular local dish, Gyeongju bread, the pastries from soy for the first time produced in 1939, and which now is on sale through the whole country. From the known local alcoholic beverages, the most popular, to a pop. Sport. Generally in Gyeongju, sports tourism, in particular the mountain bicycle and mountaineering, is developed. It is promoted by the developed tourist infrastructure of the city and rather large number of mountains and mountain tourist routes within the city. For cyclists it is laid several special routes laid near historical city monuments. There is a large number of rental centers of bicycles. The same concerns also climbing routes and tracks. In 2007 in Gyeongju, the football club Gyeongju Citizen, which since a season of 2008 takes part in the Championship of South Korea in soccer. In the third division, League K, was founded. Symbols. The coat of arms of Gyeongju represents a crown against the background of the blue sky. The crown in this case symbolizes the past of the city when it was the capital of the ancient state of Silla. The blue sky of a background represents bright future of the city, and 6 stars located in the sky are 6 settlements with which history Silla began. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.